Knock, knock. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. In 3, 2, 1. Boom. We are live. I'm live with a very close friend and colleague, Lucy. Please pronounce your last name.
Oliveira.
I would say Oliveira, but you say elevator. I don't know.
People used to think it was like aloe vera, like the plant.
Well, you say it so eloquent and beautiful, so I'm sorry to butcher it. That's my American
It's
accent.
okay.
Do Americans have accent or we lack thereof?
You guys have an accent.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely once you start listening to English as I speak Portuguese for those that don't know.
Yes.
I was born in Brazil and
Yes.
I've been here for 13 years. So I speak Portuguese as well, and that's my native tongue. So when hearing English, we can definitely tell when you guys are Americans.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then have you gone to different parts of the United States to hear like the Southern drawl?
Yeah.
And y'all like.
Yes.
I'm sure
In
that's.
fact, when I first moved here, I didn't really speak English very well, and I went straight to New York.
Okay.
And I was dropped off in the city, and I thought I could speak English until I heard people speaking in there. And I did not know what anybody was saying. There was definitely some heavy accents there. And, traveling throughout the country, I've traveled everywhere in the U.S. It's awesome. I love
Yes.
it. I love the Southern accent. It's very cozy.
I like that. I think that's a great description. It is cozy.
Right.
It goes along with their comfort food, their fried
Right.
comfort food.
Yeah.
All right. I always start off with something fun. Pick a number between 1 and 17.
17.
What is your favorite memory?
Oh my gosh.
I'm starting off tough.
That's
We're
a
just
broad question.
Well, just give me one. Could
Okay,
be-
I'll give
yeah.
you a semi-recent one.
Yeah.
Couple years ago, I went to Egypt,
Okay.
and I think one of my core memories was unlocked there when I got to go inside of the Giza pyramid, and that was the wildest thing I've ever seen.
Okay. So we're going to pull a little bit of an audible right there because that didn't go on quite yet, but it's rolling with that one as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So one more quick little number between 1 and 16.
9.
What is your favorite holiday?
Oh, wow. I would say Christmas.
Okay.
Christmas is probably my favorite holiday.
Okay. Is it the time of year? It's cold. Well, should be cold in most places.
Oh,
The
yeah, no.
snow.
Growing up, it was definitely not cold,
Yeah.
my friend. It was hot. In fact, I can't even go to Brazil on Christmas anymore because it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
After being here for so long. Christmas is definitely my favorite.
Yeah. Sarah and I went to Australia for Thanksgiving, and it was like 100 degrees and just hot and sweaty, and it did not feel like Thanksgiving, let me tell you.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Once you grow up in a certain place, it did feel fine until I moved here. And I'm like, yeah, this is a lot better. You need a little bit of winter,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Well,
let's kick this off. So Lucy is a close friend, referral partner, realtor. I know this gal in 20 different ways, and we're going to kind of elaborate on that and talk whatever she wants to talk about today. But I think what's neat is seeing my stories, my friends come full circle in the sense that like I moved to Ventura 13 years ago, going on 14. I was fresh in town. I knew one person other than my significant other. And real quickly, I just jumped into humanitarianism. We started volunteering and working around the town and traveling and doing all kinds of things. And I don't know how soon into that picture, but I do remember that you came into the Rotary picture. We were volunteering with Rotary and specifically Rotaract, which is the younger generation, kind of the 18 to 35-year-olds. Yes, I was that age at one point.
right? Can't believe it. Both of us.
Right. And we did projects and we, I don't know, got to know each other in kind of a cool sense of like just giving back. And I think we've kept in touch. And then fast forward, I remember you speaking about you were going to become a realtor. Mm-hmm. And then boom, you were a realtor.
Yeah.
Tell me, walk me through all that.
And then I reached out to you. I was like,
Yeah.
I got my license. I know who to call.
You did. And I remember that. We got together and we
Yeah.
got caught up and reacquainted and just kind of talked about business. And I think purely from the heart, you saw what Sarah and I do with our business and our clients and how we interact and we give back so much that it was like, how can we work together and how do we make this work? And just kind of rolled from there. And then fast forward even further, we have a nonprofit that Sarah and I started, Love VC. We've had an episode about Love VC. And we were like, who do we want on our board? And Lucy came up again. So boom, boom, boom. Lucy is all over the place.
I'm very honored, by the way. I think I've told you that before.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that it's an interesting thing to think about the past and how far we've come and how long we've known each other, actually. Because I moved here in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I met you like maybe 2011, I believe.
I moved here in 2010, so I didn't even know you beat me here, which is really cool, actually, kind of looking back, that we were here within a year of each other. We both came to this town.
Yeah.
Did you know anybody in Ventura, or this was just...
Yeah, at that time I did I was living in Camarillo for a couple of years and I moved to Ventura in 2011.
Okay.
Because I knew people. I started to like create friends here and and I grew up in the beach and I felt like was my place.
Yes.
A lot more my crowd and the community was very different back then. There isn't much to do, but it was a lot more what I was like drawn to.
Yes.
And I remember it was actually one of my friends that brought me to Rotaract. Eric Dulenkoff.
Okay.
Shout out to you.
Oh, shout out Eric D.
Yeah, he was volunteering with you guys, and he's like, you should try it out, check it out, and I did. And at that time, I just felt like I always wanted to be more involved, and I have this like call to give back and to put some of my free time into my community or whatever it is that my heart's calling for that. And so I started going to the Rotaract meetings, and I just loved it. I think it was just a really good phase of my life. I was like, just one of the drives was obviously volunteer, but also was to like expand my community and just meet more people. And there's so many great people. Yeah. Including you guys.
Thank you.
Did not know then that we're going to go full circle.
Well, it was a work in progress. In my early years, I didn't give back at all. I didn't. It's not that I didn't want to. I just never knew how, and I never embraced it. And so when I moved here to Ventura, it was like the one thing that I had on my hands was time. I didn't have money, but I had time. So it was like, as I was establishing myself, as I was establishing my business, how do I get involved in the community that I chose to move to? And then it was, what I love about you is you're an absolute doer. And it was just like, hey, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about painting the alley and painting the building. We're just going to go do it. And that to me is huge. There's a lot of people that talk about it and they will do stuff, but there's a lot of buildup. And I think it's more talking about it than actually doing it. Sometimes you just got to roll up your sleeves and get out there and get dirty. And what's great about you is you don't just focus on any one entity. If you see the need, or tell me about your friend that you helped get a van.
Vince.
Yes.
Yeah. If I have the opportunity to help, I'm gonna help, right? I don't have like you said, I don't have a specific niche where I want to focus on helping. It's whatever the help is needed. If I can do anything about it, I will. So a couple of years ago, I was at a coffee shop in Ojai, and I met this older man, Vince. I bonded with him over his dog, and she was really cute. So we started talking, and once I start going to a coffee shop, you guys, I go like every day. It becomes a problem, but it's also I've met so many wonderful people because of that.
Yes.
So I came across Vince, and literally every day I would come and talk to him, and we talk about things, and he shares his life, and I share mine, and all that. And one day I was like, "Hey, where do you live?" And he's like, "I actually live in my car," and I had no idea. So the moment that I realized that, I was like pretty upset, because he's a veteran. He fought in the Vietnam War. He was injured in that war, and that injured's kind of like been a part of why he's now living in his vehicle. and I just felt like I needed to do something about it because he was 70-something-year-old man living on a Honda Element with a
Oh my
dog.
gosh.
I mean, you cannot even stand up in that, right?
Yeah.
So I was called to start a GoFundMe, and that GoFundMe we shared throughout Ventura County, and everyone started donating, and we're able to raise about $10,000 for him, and actually get him a van.
Yeah.
And he was living in that van until recently when his health declined, and now he's, I actually have to help him again, and thankfully he's in a situation where he's got shelter and he's been taken care of. So anytime I can do
That's
anything
amazing.
for
I
anyone,
love it.
I will.
And that's a
And
perfect story of Lucy identifying a need, just meeting somebody randomly at a coffee shop and rolling with it. Boom.
Right.
Next thing you know, he's got a van.
At the end of the day, Greg, all it takes is someone to start. Everyone, like, there's so many great people here and so many people that actually want to help and want to give and are willing to do so. So if you just start the fire, it will go, right?
Yes,
so I think, it's not just me, it's just community. Everyone coming together. Even the van, the people that actually sold the van to him was one of the directors of one of big non-profits in town.
Oh, wow.
And they basically sold him for almost nothing.
Yeah.
Because they were selling it anyways, and they decided to make sure that he had a choice. So, anyways, yeah, it takes the village.
It does. You're the focal point. You're the campfire in the center that gets everybody warmed up, fired up, and ready to go and give. And I love it. And that's a perfect story. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
So with that, I mean, again, you volunteer many different things. You're on our board with Love VC. How did you have the desire? Was there, like a childhood desire to become a realtor? Was it in California? Hey, this is like, popular thing to do. What sparked that fire?
Okay, so funny enough, my dad's an entrepreneur. My dad is a very smart man that never even went to college, but he's always been a business owner. So I grew up around that.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, my dad sold all his restaurants, and he got into the construction business in Brazil. And I was, I would go and work with him. And once I was in college, he's like, I don't want you to work when you're in college. Just come help me. That way you can apply some of the stuff that you were learning. And at that time, I was into school for international business.
Okay.
Nothing to do with construction, but there's some business in there,
sure.
right? So I grew up in that world, kind of, My dad, because he bought everything wholesale price, he started building houses and kind of creating his little portfolio, and I watched that. So when I moved here, I just moved here to learn English and go to school, and I didn't really plan on staying here at all. So it's life, it throws its, its curveballs. And when I decided to be a realtor, I was actually working as a real estate marketing assistant.
I recall that.
Yeah, and I started as a real estate virtual assistant. I kind of created my own website, to be honest. I copied and pasted someone else's website, and I kind of winged it, and I learned it as I go. And that worked out great for a little bit. And then I worked for a broker in Montecito, and I worked for a broker in Ventura. And then that's when I realized that I wanted to become a realtor, because I saw that I had the potential to do it. And because, honestly, between you and I can't be someone as employee. I just can't. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I needed to run my own business. And then I realized, you know what? I've already been in this industry. I kind of understand. I'm going to take a chance. And then I went out and got my license. And then my first year, I sold 12 houses.
Wow.
Somehow.
Yeah. Wow.
So I quit everything I was doing after 2 sales, because I had made more money in 2 sales than I've ever made before, being an assistant. And I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to put all of it into this. And I realized that I love it. I love the real estate world. I love that you can help people become homeowners. You can help them in this stage of like home. Home is a huge part of life.
Yeah.
And it goes, everybody that has good memories, at some point, you're going to have memories from home, like holidays or vacations or family coming to town, or like, home is a huge part of life. So I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's a good point. Like even, Sarah's from Eugene, Oregon, and, growing up in California, I've been to Oregon, but when we would go back to her hometown, even if it was a home that her family didn't even own, if it was a special home, she's driven me by that home, So I like what you said, just having those memories. And then again, if it's a family home and maybe generational home or something like that, it brings a lot of memories and good things.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
So I think that was a huge part of it. I thought, at that time, I feel like I entered real estate in the good timing because I started in 2017, end of 2017, I believe, or 2018. I can't remember exactly. But, things were kind of going well.
Yeah.
Rates were like 4.5%. Remember that?
Yeah. Prices were still pretty good.
Yeah, and Ventura County wasn't really like that hot yet, but once we hit 2019 and 2020,
and then COVID.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And COVID kind of, blew it up. So I got in the right time, I believe,
and I agree. I think to have some sales behind your belt, as they say, to learn the industry, to build some confidence, to understand the trade, I think it was definitely good before things got way, way crazy.
Right.
Let's give a little shout out because you work for Seaside Realty with Chris and Johnny and some great mentors, which is a small, we'll call it a mom and pop boutique real estate company. Prior to that, did you work with a larger company or has it always been?
Yeah, no, I did.
Okay.
I actually was in Realty One.
Okay.
Realty One Group Summit with Kemi Pensac. I love her.
Okay.
Love Realty One. I had a wonderful, experience there. I still have wonderful friendships with them. And Johnny and Chris reach out, giving me a really good opportunity to be in their team and also learn about investments.
Right.
Because Johnny became my mentor.
Yes.
As I am trying to become an investor, you guys. And I decided to make the move with them because I felt like I was at that point in my career that I couldn't just do it alone anymore.
Right.
I needed to be in a team setting and I needed to get that, experience it from other directions, so I could implement it in my business. And it's been wonderful. They're wonderful people. We have a wonderful relationship, and then it's been really, really fun to work with these guys.
Oh, they're great. And I feel like, look, as an outsider looking in, it's a very good fit for you, for them. As you mentioned, they're great guys. They're not just, realtors, they're also investors. So they're practicing what they preach. And I think that's very important for you to have a mentor that is along those lines.
Yeah.
And then it's been fun as, getting to know them and more of the partnerships that we have looking forward. I'm very excited for both of us.
Right. Me too. Yeah. And we just brought a new girl into the team, Christy. She's amazing. So I think this year is going to be a really good year for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, we talk about good year. Actually, I want to ask you, what do you think is going to happen with interest rates?
Well, that's the $1 million question, right?
Right.
Hold on, let me polish off the crystal ball here. The Federal Reserve is the group for the government that sets monetary policy. Mm-hmm. And although they're very intelligent, and I think they're very wise, and they have, advisors, and they have committees, and they have all of this knowledge. I don't think there's ever an exact science. So, we in the industry give them a hard time. I also feel that it would be a tough position to be in as well.
Absolutely.
There's a cause and effect of everything. And so yes, everybody just wants lower interest rates, but what is the effect of that? That's where, okay, now you have multiple bid, for your offers, right? So you don't just get on a home one bid or two bids. Maybe, what's the I'm tongue-tied here. Let me start over here.
It's okay.
What is the max number of bids that you've had? 18, 20? I've heard some go up to 100. 50. So what does that do is that drives up the price. So if you could buy it at $500,000 at 7%, or you buy it for $600,000 at 4%, really, I think, it costs you more money in that lower rate environment. So I think there needs to be a happy medium. You know, I think it needs to be kind of like going to the grocery store and you're buying a gallon of milk and you don't think twice about it. Maybe it's like that price point of like, you know, unfortunately, I don't do a lot of the shopping, so I don't know what milk is a gallon, but maybe it's $5 a gallon.
I don't know either. I don't buy milk.
I don't want it to be $12 a gallon, right? So, you know, having rates that are low enough to drive a desire for people to still continue the dream of home ownership, I think that's amazing.
I agree.
You know, I think bigger than the interest rates right now is they also, I mean, in real estate, we look at everything. I mean, we look at data of car sales, RV sales. When you start to see RV sales decline or increase, this is really telling something about the economy because that's discretionary money, right? That's not your immediate vehicle. This is, hey, we've got enough to buy this extra. And so we study all that. And so I think when you look at the housing, I don't think it's just interest rates. I think one of the compounding difficulties in this market is the lack of inventory.
Right.
And I think if we had more people that were confident, and the consumer confidence is getting stronger, the builder confidence is getting stronger. If we had more people that were just willing to sell, then that turns over another home, another opportunity for a first-time home buyer.
Right.
And then they step up to the next home. So lack of inventory and high rates, we're kind of at this stalemate that there's just slow movement. It's just very slow paced, and the economy really is asking and begging for more.
Right.
So,
and do you feel that? I feel that with COVID, the fact that the rates went so low, it kind of, you know, I don't know if I'm wrong or right on this, but it's a feel that I have that we kind of shot ourselves in our foot when it came to that. You know, like at the moment, it was really important to keep the economy going, but then not knowing what would be the consequences of that when you can borrow money practically nothing.
Right.
And everyone is sitting in really low rates right now, and they don't want to sell their houses. They're not going to sell their houses. What they're doing right now is they're taking a HELOC, a home equity, you know, line of credit, and they're going out and buying another house somewhere else. So, you know, and for us in Ventura County, you're absolutely right. The inventory here, it's one of the lowest in the country.
Right.
And a lot of people don't even know that. And there's a lot of people wanting to be here because we have wonderful weather. We're at this point where, you know, my generation, people want to moving back. People that moved away, they're coming back. They want to start families. They want to go to stay close to their parents. They're still here, and they cannot buy a house unless they get help from their family members.
Right. It's just much more of a commitment to buy a house. You know, what I have seen generationally, and, you know, I'm Gen X, and then there's the millennials, and now we have Gen Z. My generation, I think, was more of the hands-on, and, you know, what could we get into a home for? 3% was the minimum. Okay, let's try to have 5 or 10%. Then we get into the millennials, where they're taking a lot longer to hatch.
Right.
We're going to kind of say that, right? And so I think there's a lot more educated decision there, which is great. But at the same time, it takes a lot longer. And so if you could have bought a home at 25, but now you're waiting till 35, more than likely, and I'm just going to, you know, make some assumptions here, they do go back and live with their family. They've graduated college. Now they're making $150,000. A lot of these first-time buyers aren't coming in with minimum down payments. They're coming in with minimum of 20% down.
Right.
And so I think that's really changed the dynamic. And if we look at the age, this is also what we study, the age of the first-time buyers. The age is getting older.
Yeah.
And we're also coming into this new surplus of generation Gen Z, where there's more of them coming in that is creating more of a demand. So they're at that ripe age. They have the ability to pay for it. They're just not quick to make the decisions of, let me go jump on this. Right. And I don't think housing is something you jump on, but I think, you know, I when I go over mortgage consultations with my clients, we go over the numbers. There's a specific appointment dedicated to knowing your numbers. And that is so critical to me to understand what you're getting into. I don't want this to be like student loans. You're just going to sign the X
Right.
and forget about
It's
me
really
for 30
important
years.
to have that conversation.
But there's different dynamics that I also get into. And one of the huge one, I believe, is the cost of waiting. Now, I'm not saying that, here's what the cost of waiting is. Do you buy right now with 10% down, or do you wait 1 year to save up another 10%? Well, for most people, it's going to take a lot longer than 1 year
Right.
to save an additional 10%. So you have to look at all of the factors. What are the proposed rates in a year? What is the annual appreciation of that home? If I bought it today at today's price, how much can I already pay this home down in the course of a year? And the devil's advocacy, how much more does it cost me with 10% down versus 20% down? Maybe the write-off of the mortgage interest and property taxes benefits me. Maybe it costs me an extra couple $100. Now, these aren't my decisions to make. This is the food for thought that we go over to really decide buying now versus later and the true cost of waiting. And I let the numbers talk, and I, just like to explain it through an educational approach with my clients of
Right.
like, do we buy now or buy later? So
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, a lot of people they are uneducated about that. And they don't understand that. And I talk about this all the time. You got to have a plan.
yes,
You have to have a plan
yes,
and stick to that plan, because if you started that plan 6 months ago, you're a lot closer to getting something now than you were 6 months ago, right?
right,
So having a plan, and like I tell people, go talk to the lender,
yes,
educate yourself. They're like free financial, they give you free financial
Yes.
information, and sometimes that are really helpful. And it kind of breaks that barrier of like real estate being so unachievable, because we've helped clients who were making okay money, but they made the plan. They lived with their parents for a year. They saved the money. They bought a house, and they did it. Their brother did it. You know what I mean? Like, so if you can make a plan, whether it's sticking with your family a little longer, or maybe getting a couple other roommates and lowering your cost of living.
Right.
Like, a lot of people don't want to do that in our age group because it's an inconvenience to have a roommate. But if that's going to get you where you want to be, why wouldn't you do that, right?
exactly. And I'm going to support that. I can't reiterate that enough. What Lucy's saying is reach out to a lender. If you're even just remotely thinking about, hey, I want to buy a home, call a lender. Now, schedule an appointment. Go see them in person. And I'm
Right.
going to encourage that. Yes, I have wonderful conversations over the phone, but I think in person, when you can meet somebody and see if this is the right person for you. But secondly, listen and go over the numbers, go over the plan. This goes hand in hand as a little motivational speak, right? Of having goals. It's having goals in writing, having a plan in writing. That if maybe today it doesn't work, and maybe today you can't buy that home, or you're not in a position, but anybody that comes to me that has the desire, I can guarantee you we can put together a plan
Right.
in the future to get you into a home. And sometimes those plans are 90 days.
Right.
Sometimes it takes a year or two, a
Right.
few years. Everybody's a little bit different in their scenario, but take the guesswork out of that. And so many people want to wait until they like, oh, I want to pay this off on my credit. I want to do this. I want to do this. People, you are not educated in credit. Let me tell you, I
Right.
see that all the time. You don't buy, if you don't own a home, you've never done that. So
Right.
don't make these self-evaluations. And also don't go off your neighbor's, brother's, cousin's advice. That doesn't work in the industry. So do yourself a favor, reach out to somebody, reach out to a lender, get some referrals from people, and go sit down with them and see what they say.
Exactly. It's just like any financial planning you do, right? In your life,
Absolutely.
you have to, like, you're putting money for retirement right now, you're planning. Why
Yes.
is this any different, right? And real estate's the one thing that you are not going to regret getting into, because you are going to build wealth for yourself, for your family, if you decide to have one. and that generational wealth. It's why I love doing real estate in America. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world.
Right.
I mean, like my dad owns many properties. He's not living off of equity there. It's the monthly rent. Equity goes up and down pretty often.
Yeah.
And here we have a different world when it comes to real estate. And I talk to investors all the time, and they travel and they ask questions about what the real estate's like in different countries like New Zealand, Australia, Europe. Europe, you can buy a house anywhere for 200 grand.
Yeah.
And the house is kind of like, it doesn't change the way it changes here, because here there's something else that doesn't happen in other countries, which is real estate here is a huge part of like the hedge fund world.
Yeah.
And they are never gonna let go of that. If anything, they're just gonna make this a rental country. So I really believe that like our generation, we have to really work on getting into something, even if it's out of state, something to start somewhere, because you hear that all the time. They're the hedge fund guys that have a lot of money sitting in the sidelines, and they have already start buying left and right, and their goal is to own 60% of the market by 2030, which is not very far from right now. And everyone thinks about like, oh, but there's gonna be a bubble, there's gonna be a correction. I mean, based on the inventory, there is not, because we don't have any new builds going on.
Right.
There's nothing like 2009 was a very different scenario from what it is right now, where everyone's sitting in tons of equity, really low mortgage rates, and they're buying all their properties if they can. There's wholesalers, there's investors just left and right across this nation, just buying and building like $100 portfolios. And they want you to be a tenant. They want us to be the tenants, our kids to be the tenants. So if you don't do that work, you have to educate yourself. You would never know those things if you're not looking into buying a house and actually understanding what that was going to look like in your future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You brought up the I'm not going to say the magic word, but the faux pas word, bubble. Do you still get a lot of clients that are saying that? You do. Wow.
Oh yeah. There's always somebody's uncle, somebody's neighbor.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of friends. There's like, they definitely still think that might happen. And I mean, I'm sorry. I would love for that to happen, because I would be so ready. We'd all be so ready.
So again, we address that. I mean, I nip it in the bud. There's so many charts. If you go back 90 some years, there's been like 3 years that have been like zero, and it's been significant years. And then you have a course of 2 years that there was actually a drop in appreciation. And that's I call it the foreclosure crisis, the housing bubble time from 2008, 2010. So whatever you want to call that, but there was such an anomaly of what went on. It was not just overbuilding. I mean, it was oversupplied versus the demand.
Right.
You had crazy mortgage programs that were one-off, deregulated. The industry was just in a very bad place.
Right.
And then you have the start of the collapse of some of the banks, the Lehman Brothers and things like that, where they were taking on bad debts. They were writing bad notes, and it finally caught up to them, and it just fell out from underneath everybody. And I never wish that upon anybody again. I'd never want to live through it again.
Right.
But our mortgage programs are so, I feel like, with the pendulum swinging from, too rigid, too easy, I feel like they're in a good place. Yes, there's some quirky guidelines here and there, and they make revisions constantly, but I think they need to keep a lot of the fraud out. And even though, we do our best, mortgage fraud is still evident.
There's a lot of sketchy lenders out there too, especially right now. Anytime the market's in a situation like this, you start coming out. I mean, I get emails every day from some random lender that I've never heard of, like telling me that they will give me a loan based on like they don't even run anything. I mean, they're just like, how much do you need?
Yeah.
And so it's just, you don't want to get in those situations, because that's something that I love working with lenders like yourself, Greg. It's that you guys follow those guidelines to make sure that not only the consumer understands what they're doing, but they also are getting something that it's exactly what they were told.
Absolutely.
You know?
And for the sustainability of the industry, that is critical. You know, it's not short-sighted to line our pockets.
Right.
You know, we get paid the same on every loan. That's how it should be. We shouldn't steer them into any unique or quirky products. It's, you know, and in today's market, honestly, everything's a 30-year fixed. I mean, for the most part, you know, I mean, there's definitely other programs, but
So I feel like that we're definitely in a tricky time. I think that there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of more confidence coming. I'm seeing that a lot. You know, more people are deciding to make their moves, and a lot of the moves that we're seeing and a lot of the listings that we're getting are from like that they're at that time in their lives where like there is a major like event happening, whether they're retiring and moving out of state and moving, you know, going smaller, downsizing, or there's something, the death in the property and the family is liquidating their assets. I mean, that's pretty much all we're seeing.
Yeah.
You know, economically, we're in that, you know, kind of like looking a lot better than we were a few months ago.
Sure.
So I think as we come over the hump here economically and not going into a major recession, most likely now, then that confidence is going to get back up. And we already seen it some markets where I tell people right now, it's real estate is right now, it's literally like neighborhood to neighborhood. You know, if there's plenty of inventory in certain areas, in certain areas there isn't. So, you know, you have to look at that and you know, prepare, because you know, if the rates start dropping again later this year, hopefully, you know, we're gonna start seeing a lot more people writing offers and a lot more like that. You know, competitiveness of the market. I don't think the prices are gonna go crazy like they were. Hopefully not. I think they're gonna start going up steadily like they used to be 5% a year or so, but not 15 like it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, circling back to the crystal ball, rates are estimated to start trickling down a little bit this year. There was, you know, when the Federal Reserve meets, their rate cuts do not directly, you know, when they say we're going to cut a quarter, we're going to cut a half, that does not cut the mortgage rates a quarter or a half.
Right.
That cuts the overnight banking rates. Banks lend money, the government lends money, overnight money. Now, what the mortgage industry takes away is, what is the Fed? What is their intent? What's their drive? What are they thinking short term and long term? And that's how the rates are coming down. Now, there are some meetings, you know, January, March, May, June, and speculation at what point they're going to start cutting those. And even in Vegas, they're doing Vegas odds on this of when they're going to cut it. And, you know, I think as of now, I think probably the earliest we're going to see something is June. Summertime, I think there's going to be a good opportunity with some good activity, maybe some more listings.
Right.
Maybe we see 1/4 to 0.5% lower in the rate.
Right.
That is very realistic, I think, you know, by at least, you know, Q3 that we start to see that. And then, as you said, I think that's going to start to build the confidence. And I'd like to see the rates kind of honestly stay there for a little bit.
Right.
Let's kind of take that in and see what the economy does.
Right.
Unfortunately, this is a pattern. The Fed overdoes it one way or the other. They cut too much. You know, at COVID, I was writing mortgages sub 3%, you know, 2.5% on a 30-year fix. I mean,
I saw 1.75%.
I mean, that is just crazy to even like think of. And then again, what you had said is so true. And this is what we have is people are now locked into these very low interest rates on their mortgage, and they're being stubborn.
Right.
And I really want that word to sting a little bit because in you know, people like money, people like doing things, they want to move, they have debt. I had a client that incurred over $100,000 of credit card debt and would not refinance their first mortgage. And I financially penned it out. I did a blended rate. I showed them how much money they could save each month.
Right.
And in the
consolidating your debt.
In the end, they were, yes, that's correct. Thank you. in the end, they were just so focused that I have a 2.875 rate that
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch. They were ready to go
But they're paying what,
into
18%?
bankruptcy over it.
Yeah, they're paying 18%
25% on some, you know?
credit cards, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really realize that you can refinance, get that money out, pay off your debt, and now your debt, it's actually a lot less, because even though your rate's higher in your mortgage, you don't have the credit card debt anymore, or whatever else, car, or whatever else that
And
you
credit
have.
cards are credit score killers. So
Yeah.
they're not only heavily indebted, they're burning themselves creditworthiness down,
Right.
and that takes time to rebuild. And so they're just
Well,
putting
yeah.
themselves in very difficult
Right.
financial positions.
And that money that they're paying, the interest that they're paying on that credit card, they could be putting that over in retirement.
Absolutely.
You know, even if it's like a quarter of that. So yeah, numbers, you guys, the world, numbers. I hate math, but I love numbers.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, because it's what it comes down to in this business. You know, it's a numbers game, and if you understand a little bit of how it works, you will be fine. Yeah.
So you started 2017, 2018, just like, you know, myself, the industry's been building up the last several years. Year over year, we've seen some good progression here in Ventura County. You know, the average appreciation, meaning you purchase an asset, you buy a house for $700, it increases in value over the average over the last 63 years is 6%. We've seen some 10%, 12%. Moving forward, I feel like, and I'm gathering from you, and 24 is going to be a good year. What do you see in the next 3 years, 5 years? What are you hoping for and seeing in the local area?
I feel like Ventura County, it's not going anywhere but up.
Yes.
Long term.
Yes.
And I know that from my experience in the business, but also, again, talking to investors and people that are doing this for the numbers. They're moving all their assets over here. One thing about Ventura County is we are a small town. Ventura itself, it's a small town, but Ventura County, it's a beautiful county. Location, weather. The one thing that we're still struggling here, I guess, it's like the quality of jobs, right? So there's a lot of people moving here, but they are like having really good remote jobs, which helps. But I think Ventura County, in the next couple of years, I hope that we get to that healthy market where rates are good, people are still buying, and within the next 3 or 4 years. Again, I can't imagine what's gonna happen. I mean, again, anything can happen, and as long as the economy is doing well, and Ventura County, it's creating more opportunity. I think we're definitely a pretty really, really nice place to be.
You nailed it. We're sandwiched between Malibu and Santa Barbara.
Yeah. You can't beat
City
that.
of Ventura has 100,000 people. It's
Right.
very local, and that's
Right.
that. I truly appreciate that. The coffee shops, the restaurants,
Right.
the feel, the look. It's very local. People will pay for that, and even though neither one of us was born here, we can see the prices going up. And although it seems sometimes unobtainable for some, I still feel that we're a bargain compared to our neighbors.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you
uh,
can buy anything in Santa Barbara for $800,000. You
you've
can buy
had
a
some
nice single
listings in
family home here,
Malibu. What are your Malibu listings?
like 3 million, 2.5 million sometimes. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
We that's the thing. And remember, there's Ventura, and then there's little cities like Oxnard, Hueneme that no even looks at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I always think about that. I'm like, sure, it's there's a base there, but like, so does Oceanside in San Diego, and that place is blowing up too.
Yeah.
So I think that the biggest thing about Ventura, specifically the city of Ventura, where I live, where we are, Ventura, it's very protective
Yes.
of their city. So a lot of these people that I talk to, they were not born here. They just been here for a long time.
Yeah.
And home is not where you're born. I was born in Brazil. I feel like this is a lot more home to me than Brazil ever was. But these people are super protective of Ventura. I mean, they've tried to develop the hillside. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Anytime there's any construction going on, everybody shows up at, the council meetings here, and we're like on it.
Yeah. Think about the property on Seaward right there by the freeway.
Right.
How long has that been fenced off and public hearing
Right.
proposal?
Right.
How many proposals have we had on that property?
Yeah, because we're very involved in what happens here. And a lot of people were not happy about what happened during the COVID because a lot of stuff got approved because no one could go anywhere. And then next thing you know, there's all these buildings popping up and not enough parking and not enough water. And so, as a realtor, I see that, people think that as realtors just want to like make money and like be greedy and like sell. But no, we also live in these communities. We are directly affected by anything that happens here. And we want to, as a realtor, I'm advocating for housing more than anything. I'm advocating for home ownership. And a lot of people complain about the prices here, and I understand it's expensive, but if there's plans that were done for building here that were, aligned with the community, that's a helpful thing because that's going to give more housing to the community. And whenever you have more inventory, you have a lower demand, the prices are healthier.
Yes.
So I think that's the one thing that we are lacking here. It's some like really nice developments of like actually single family homes.
Yes. Thank you.
That where people can actually build a life and have neighbors and not just live in the box. No one wants to live in the box. Those are all the rentals.
Yeah.
And they're needed, but they're not essential.
I've went off on several tangents, and I'm not going to do that, but I'm just going to remind people that, there is differences in housing, and what we see in the local area, and I see this in many areas, is the builder and the city maximizing profits and patting themselves on the back by doing apartments, multi-units, condos, all of these types of properties. And, apartments you rent, but, let's say home ownership on the condo side, they're stacking them so tight that think of how many generations most homes and families now live.
Right.
It's not just mom and dad and 2 kids, 2.5 kids. It's grandma, it's your brother.
Yeah.
It's, we've all had that dynamic. You now have 6.7 people in each home, each residence. And a condo, you have a lack of space that you're on top of each other. But the thing that just really kicks it for me is people don't look at the true cost. They see the surface purchase price, right? Okay, this unit's $500,000. Well, it has HOA dues. Well, that covers some of the utilities. Well, what they don't get is you never get a notice each year that says, hey, your utilities or your HOA dues went down.
Right.
They're going up.
Right.
And you're allowing somebody else to spend that money for you. But also at the time of lending, a condo is a higher risk. It carries higher interest rates. There's certain processes that we have to additionally do at the time of purchase or even at the time of refinance. Your closing costs will be higher for those types of properties. Nobody's talking about that.
No.
They're just saying,
does.
hey, we just added 100 units. We added 100 units in the space that, we should have really looked at the family dynamic. And people need the bedrooms. So I'm not saying you have to build a 3,000 square foot home. But what if you did a beautiful tract of 2,000 square foot homes, 1,800 to 2,000 square foot, make them 2-story, so it's a smaller footprint on the lot, but give the children a small backyard. Give them a piece of grass they can run around in and, be kids with that, take out some of that.
Well, that's kind of like what they did at Harvest at Limonera in Santa Paula. And that's a very successful track. A lot of people love living there. And a lot of families are there, and that actually allow a lot of first-time home buyers to get in the market, because they wanted something like that. They still do have an HOA.
They still have condos, though.
Yeah,
and
they still have condos. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, but, it's a tricky one because it's, it's like the lack of, we have more problems than just that, right?
Yeah.
We have water now. That's an issue.
Yeah.
And land. There isn't much available either. So I don't know. Eventually, we're
You're
going
right.
to be connected to Santa Paula. But yeah.
All right. Shifting gears. You've used a word many times, house hacking.
House hacking, yes.
Tell me what house hacking is.
So house hacking, it's when you take your place and you rent something out. You know, whether you have a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom, and then it's just two of you, you rent a room out. You house hacking. What if you have a finished garage or an ADU, it's a home. Your home becomes an investment.
And you're modifying. You can modify it to use extra space that you don't necessarily use.
Right.
Renting a garage, building an ADU.
Right. I mean, you can literally rent your garage space for people that have motorcycles like this guy.
Yes, please.
There's so many ways to do it these days.
Yeah.
I personally do it. I rent out a room to a travel professional, and I love it because it allows me to save more money every year and get closer to my goals and cuts my costs.
Yeah. It seems like it's more and more common. I love the terminology, house hacking, but I think some people are really accepting it and running full steam. And like how many inquiries we get for how do they do an ADU? And I know the California state laws have really loosened up.
Right.
And even the local city laws, they're working on loosening up to make it easier and easier to do some of these, property modifications pretty simply.
Right. Yeah.
Do you see much of that in the marketplace yet? Like when you're previewing homes, you get firsthand when you get to go show homes.
Right.
Do you see a lot of ADUs yet or just garage conversions?
We see a lot of ADU talk.
Okay.
This lot has a possibility of building an ADU. Again, ADUs are great, but they're not cheap.
Yes.
Right? They cost a couple $100,000.
Yes, correct.
So, they state and the counties and the cities have made it a lot easier now to build them because you just go there and you pick a plan. They have the plans, and so it's much easier. But the ones that do have ADU, they're hot.
Yeah.
They're hot commodity. And my business partner, that's an investor, Johnny, he puts an ADU in every one of his investments. So essentially, he's taking one door and turning into two doors in every property that he has.
Wow.
So that's a very, very smart thing to do. And the whole house hacking, word comes from the investment world. I listen to a lot of podcasts on investments, and especially there's a really big one that everyone listens to, Bigger Pockets. And they have a couple house hacking books that I would highly recommend you to look into. And that's why I get it from, and that's why I started doing, because every investor, if you are a millennial or even if you're younger, you can buy, if you can buy a house, let's say you live in a state that's more affordable for you, you buy a house whenever you can and you just rent out your rooms. You're going to be living with roommates anyways in your 20s most of the time, right? Right. And then a lot of these investors did that, and then they were able to take that property and turn into another property and so forth. So that's why I highly recommend our millennial folks here to do, because it's smart.
And it's a matter of time before mom and dad are in the back ADU,
right,
flipping the roles and collecting rent on mom and dad.
Right. And, a lot of people that have owned properties, they have equity sitting there. This is the perfect opportunity for you to tap into the equity and build that ADU. Yeah. So there's a lot of people doing that right now. The people that are building them are the ones that are tapping into their equity because, not everyone has a couple $100,000 just sitting.
Right. There is right now a big grant through CalHFA for ADUs. People don't really read all the fine print because it's up to $40,000, but it's really for the fees and the costs. Yeah. So that, people in their own little mind, they're like, oh, I'm going to build this for $50,000. I can do this. And that's not realistic for most situations. Right. I'm sure you can do a garage conversion for $20,000 where it already has roofing and things like that. Right. But to have a standalone structure, it costs quite a bit. You have to get utilities, to the back corner, electricity and plumbing. Right. And so, ideally that program is catered to a $250,000 ADU. Right. But there is incentives there. And so I wish more people would take me up on that. We have a lot of conversations about it, kind of like I think what you were saying, but there is stuff available. So.
But again, it's education's power. Right? Yes. People have to educate themselves. we tend to complain a lot as humans and
Yes.
not really do the work. It's easy to be like, rents are terrible in Ventura, like, but you've been here for 30 years. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, what at one point, like, maybe if you had made a plan, you could be a homeowner and you can actually be taking advantage of the opportunity of like having a tenant or
You
know,
control the situation
Yeah.
when you take ownership. And that's, I mean, these are life lessons that are simple,
Right.
but you're
yeah,
right. You're
not
right.
everyone. It's okay, right?
Yes.
I'm all about affordable housing and affordable like living wages in this country. And we are in California. California is very different than most places because people don't come here for anything else but like the lifestyle,
Right.
And there is a lot of opportunity here. I mean, we're a huge economy in this country and in the world.
Yeah.
So it's like anywhere that there is opportunity, there's going to be influx of people and there's going to be a demand and the prices of everything's going to be higher.
Yeah.
But hopefully that we can really take those things in consideration and like be on the positive side of things and act from a place of like how I can better my living situation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or my life in general. And being able to get to whatever it is that your goal, is.
Yeah.
So
I want to take just a little minute. Before we started, I was sharing with you how everyone that I work with is slightly different. And you, I love you to death. And I feel like there's many reasons why you're so amazing. But I think
well, thank you.
your outgoingness, I really feel stems rather from being from a different country.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and, specifically Brazil, where I've been there and I know like there's so many people and it's tough. And so you have to, I don't want to say be outspoken, but you have to kind of be able to communicate and verbalize and
Right.
demanding of what you want. And so I don't put you as an aggressive person or aggressive realtor, but I'd say you're kind of the upfront,
Right.
no BS, roll up
Right.
the sleeves, and
I try.
like, and I think that is you do it in such a well-spoken manner with a Brazilian accent, of course.
Thank you very much.
So, and kind of where am I going with all this? And this is what I see too. Again, I work with a lot of different realtors and personality types. The clients that we've had, you become, I mean, I know we all get close to our clients and I, personally see their finances. I see where they're spending money.
Right.
I'm asking for every shred of piece of paper that they need.
Right.
These are 5-year-old clients and you're like, oh, I just had lunch with so-and-so. And I'm
Right.
like, how do you have time? But like you continue to build these relationships and pursue them and not just let them go at your fingertips.
Well, I try. I really do because I do care about people. And thankfully, like I've had such great, wonderful clients throughout my career.
Yeah.
Very few of them I don't touch base as much, but like I know I bumped into a lot of them and I'm like happy to see them. And I try to like call and text and check in. Even people that are not my clients anymore, that decided not to make any moves, I still want to check in on them.
Yeah.
Because, that's the part of this business that I enjoy. I really enjoy the relationships.
Yes.
And I want to, more than just being a realtor, I just want to be a good resource to people. I don't want to, I'm pretty strong person. I'm a strong
Very
person.
strong. I
but
second
I'm
that.
not a salesy person. Like I don't push people into things that they're not comfortable with. And I always tell them that. Like I've literally many times I told people, I'm like, you guys, this is not it. Like this is a money pit.
Yeah.
You don't want to buy this house. I'll point out the things that they're wrong with it sometimes because that's what I'm here to do.
People will respect you so much more by saying no.
Right.
It's easy to say yes and easy to get caught up in that and easy to push them short-sighted into, hey, you can financially gain from that.
Right.
But when they see that you're genuinely looking out for them,
well, yeah.
you're new best friends. You're a bridesmaid in their wedding. Now.
Right. And in the long term, I guess, when you do the right thing comes back, so you just got to do that. There is, I know a lot of clients that are like traumatized with their experience with previous realtors. And I feel sorry that there's that experience out there because there's definitely a lot of people like me too. That are really caring and they want to make sure that the clients feel like they matter and they're taken care of and they have a resource, because a lot of these people don't know what really happens in the on the other end of the business.
Right.
And that's my job. My job is to my due diligence is to protect them.
Yeah.
And be their voice. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
You are too.
I'm just sharing
You're
what
amazing.
I see.
You're amazing
and
too.
I appreciate that. And that's obviously why we choose to work together. We
Right.
have a lot of the similar, alignment in
Right.
character and values and stuff. And it's just amazing. I don't have your position. So it's, very, I understand what you do, but at the same time, I don't understand how difficult it can be sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you find some of the challenges, like gaining new clients and the opportunity? Is it the lack of inventory that you don't have enough houses to show them? Is it you found the house, you have the clients, they're pre-approved, and it's trying to get your offer accepted? Now, I understand the market shifts a lot of these challenges.
Right.
What are you seeing out there? Like what is difficult to overcome?
Right now, for buyers that are ready to go, it's getting their offer accepted.
Gotcha.
But overall, there's just a lot of people not making any movement right now. They're just waiting around for some reason.
Yeah.
And waiting to see what happens. And that is when you should not be waiting to think. When things are steady and like slow, that's when you start making moves, in my opinion, because you want to be ahead of the curve.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to come out when everybody's also coming out to buy.
Yes.
Because you never know. There's opportunity in this market too, where things are seating in and you can get it for a much better deal. And sure, your rates might be higher, but you can refinance when it comes down, but you secured something at a lower price. So I think that's the things that I see it right now that are just really challenging,
Yeah.
For some of these properties, especially the price range that everyone wants between $650 and $850.
Yeah.
Everything is moving pretty quickly.
Is it still 3-2 that is desirable? Is it 2-1s?
Yeah.
Is it like,
A lot of people would like 3-2s. That's ideal. Not everyone gets that. And people just don't seem to love like HOAs anymore.
yeah.
And I understand it, but an HOA for a couple of years as a first-time home buyer, it's not a bad thing either. If it's depending on the place.
Again, I agree with you, and I think there's different types of HOAs. I know where you previously lived. I love that complex.
Me too.
And that was a townhouse, not a condo.
Right.
And so most people don't even know the difference. What is the difference? Is a townhouse, you own the unit as well as the land underneath it.
Right.
You just have a common area, a clubhouse, a pool, you pay HOA dues.
Right.
It's your unit. So if something goes wrong with it, you're replacing the roof, the siding, etc.
Right.
A condo, you technically only own the inside walls in. And so when there's a structure, it needs a new roof, the HOA is paying for that roof. So the difference between the two is the HOA has a lot more responsibilities and they have a lot more control. And when I say responsibilities, financially, they have a lot more responsibilities. Right. So a lot of times you see a HOA dues that are much higher on a condo versus a townhouse. And I'm 100% with you. Is it buy a condo versus don't buy anything at all? 100 times over. You absolutely do it. And, I think in today's market, getting in, I don't want to say anywhere. I'm not saying you got to move to Bakersfield, but I think like if you're in Ventura, you could go to Santa Paula, you could go to Fillmore and really get your feet wet. You are not going to retire in this home. You have to start somewhere. Get in. Just get in. Just do it. And after a year, 2 years, you can sell it and step up to the next home. I'd love for you to turn that into an investment property and step up to the next home. Right. Build your portfolio, your wealth there. But, kind of tagging along what you said earlier, right now is the calm before the storm. Right. This is the time, in my opinion, you need to buy. Right. I'm going to repeat that. You need to buy now. And it's before the interest rates make a move down, because that's when it's going to become chaos. And I'm not saying it's going to be the crazy cycles it was before, but there is going to be bid over asking. There's going to be multiple offers. Your challenge that you just told me, one of the biggest challenges is getting your offer accepted with low inventory. Now perpetuate that with even more people that are at the market and desire to buy.
Yeah, especially for the first-time home buyer, because most of them are going to come in with less than 20% down. And they're going up against other offers. They're coming in with 25, 30, sometimes even all cash. Yeah. So it makes it really hard because the seller is going to go with whatever looks better. Exactly. Even though, what the difference between you getting a 5% down or 20% down at the end of the day, you're going to close most of the time. But the sellers just looks safer. So and we have some strategies around that we can use to make, offers accepted, to get offers accepted. But it's tough right now. Yeah. But it's not impossible, and it's not to unmotivate people, but it's to just remind them to plan.
Yes, I love it. Okay, Lucy, in 5 years, how many investment properties is she going to own?
Well, my goal is to buy $2 a year. So maybe 10.
Maybe 10.
That would be great.
You might be working on that 11th or 12th.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's my retirement plan.
Well, and it's a great
plan.
To
buy 2 properties in the next 10 years. Okay. So send me your good vibes.
We got it. And I know a perfect lender to help you out with that
as well.
I know,
right? Yeah. Me too.
Do we have any other things that I haven't hit on that you want to talk about? Any other topips or things going on in the market?
I think so. I think we covered a lot of grounds here.
Man.
We talked about a lot of wonderful things, and maybe we should do another one sometime and talk about some other stuff.
All right, let's get your Portuguese accent going. The pão de queijo.
Pão de queijo.
Pão com queijo.
Yeah, if you want a pão de queijo, I'll bring you some next time. Muito obrigada pela sua informação hoje.
Oh my goodness. This is a shout out to my friend Jared and Shimada. Thank you for taking me to Brazil many moons ago.
I can't believe you went. Oh, it's funny. Not many Americans like to go to Brazil. It's so weird to me. You guys it's wonderful there. It's really fun.
It was hot. We went around. We went to Rio, went to a soccer game.
Cool.
Copacabana.
Yeah.
Petropolis is where we stayed. Went to Cabo Frio.
Nice.
I made the circuit,
Yeah, you actually been to many more places than I have.
You got to try it out, at least.
I know. I'm actually going to Brazil in August, so I'm gonna hit Rio for a couple, for like a week or so, and try some other places too, and just relax.
That's awesome.
Hopefully, if I can.
You deserve it. All right. I'm here with Lucy, the realtor. That's what she goes by. Lucy, how can they find you if they want more information or they want to reach out and schedule that initial consultation and say, show me some homes? You sound fun.
Yeah. Well, you can find me on my website. It's lucytherealtor.com, or you can find me on Instagram. It's lucytherealtor _ and just send me a message. I would love to, help you. Whether you're selling or you're buying, I'm here.
Yeah. Lucy is very in tune with social media, whereas I am not. So I will say, if you're on social media, you'll be able to find her. She'll be able to communicate flawlessly with you. And I think that's a great outreach. I love working with Lucy. Lately, it has kind of been a little stale on the podcast. I'm going to take ownership on that. I'm going to apologize to all the listeners. When life gets hectic, life gets hectic. And so what I've done is, without making excuses, I've changed how we are moving forward on scheduling podcast to keep it coming continuously. So you've got something to listen to on your drive from Fillmore and your new house to your short drive to Ventura. So stay tuned. We've got a lot more guests coming on the show. Very diverse crowd. You're going to love to hear it. Thank you, as always, for listening to G Money, real talk on everything mortgages and real estate. Peace.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
I
anytime. Appreciate you.
We'll do it again. Take care, my friends.
Bye.
Bye.
That was great.